Hey, it's Nicholas with the Backyard TARDIS here with some more random thoughts, this time covering E3 2021. And this was a digital event, and I always enjoy E3, but every year I find less and less time, and of course I have less and less time for games, so less things capture me. But I have very mixed feelings about this E3. There was a lot of things I liked, but I didn't feel the hype. But there was no overall presentation that just really rocketed. Like I've had a number of Nintendo ones in the past that had. Sony had that year where they like just killed it, announced Shenmue 3, Final Fantasy 7 remake, a whole bunch of things that just fans wanted. So every now and then there's like one that really does it. There was no real super hype moment, and I have to say, one of the things that was kind of a disappointment is a lot of things were spoiled for me because I was working. I couldn't watch a lot of these events live. And a complaint I have about their YouTube channels is that they release all the trailers individually, so you can go back and rewatch them individually. There needs to be like an E3 main website where there probably is, and it's probably my mistake, but maybe an E3 YouTube channel that just puts the presentations out. Because what happens? You click on Nintendo, and you have to scroll through every one of the video reveal thumbnails to get to the actual video of the presentation. That means I already knew who was appearing in Smash before it started. I knew about a bunch of games that should have been like, what game is this? What game is it? Whoa! I already knew. I already knew Metroid was going to be a thing in the presentation. So they weren't surprises for me, and that, I think, killed the hype. But let's go through some of these. First off, I recently talked about the Sonic kind of Direct, basically, the Sonic Central. And one of the things that was kind of disappointing about that is that, like, they talked about some of the games, and they used footage of older games, not the new improved ones. So like they had the Sonic Origins collections, which is basically remasters of like the Genesis games, but they actually used old ports from like the PS3 and stuff like that, and cell phones and stuff, and they weren't actual videos from that, and so the aspect ratio was changing. A lot of people noticed it and got upset. And they're like, no, this is ground up. We're making really high quality ports. The same thing with Sonic Colors Ultimate. They showed the footage of the Wii and put it as, here's the announcement trailer of this in high definition, and everybody looked at it and they go, wow, it looks even worse. No, it doesn't look worse. It looked exactly the same because it was footage from the Wii to announce an HD edition. So thankfully, finally at E3, trailers for the HD versions of this finally started to come out. So that was something that I definitely liked, and finally getting to see that stuff in a way that truly is enjoyable. Can actually get you hyped and show you some of the additional features of the game. Now, the Nintendo Direct. It starts out, and I know it's going to be a Tekken character, but everybody who did reactions to it, I love the reactions because everybody immediately knows it's a Tekken character because they see somebody throwing somebody off a cliff. That's a very Tekken thing. That's like big involved in the thing. But everybody goes, it's Heihachi! And then it's Kazuma Mishima. And so at first I thought that was kind of a big letdown. Now in the past, if you don't know, the people who make the Tekken games are actually the people who make Smash Brothers. Namco's fighting team is the people who are making Smash Brothers. So they've in the past said the two just don't mix. They're too different in style, having this 3D fighter and the way their moves that they could never capture it. And because Tekken is a very slow-moving fighter, it just wouldn't work in Smash if you took that character and their moveset and transferred it over. And when you have a fighting game, if you're not going to take their moveset, then are you really catching the essence of a fighting game character? That is why it's not Heihachi, which is undoubtedly the most recognizable character from Tekken. Um, 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 I don't want to butcher his name. Anyways, the director of it, he's did his presentation later, and he brought out that because he has the this transformation thing, they were able to use that for a lot of his special moves. So it makes sense, but at the same time, like Heihachi is much more iconic. Now, this is something that I didn't put on my top 10 list, but because it was Namco like flagship series, and they make the game. They're the ones actually designing the game. It made sense to have it in there, and I almost put him on my list of top 10 most wanted Smash characters, but I don't want him. I'm not a fan of Tekken, but I get why he deserves to be there. So then, kind of going down the line, Worms 2D Brawler. I love the old turn-based Worms games. A fast, action-packed game like this looks interesting. If it's online only, I'm not interested. They didn't really discuss that. Like, if it has offline against the computer, I am totally down for this. I really enjoy Rocket League. However, because Rocket League doesn't have a robust single player, like, I don't have great internet. The Nintendo Switch doesn't have great Wi-Fi. Like, its Wi-Fi reception, like, you have to be right next to the router to have good connection. And I am not into it enough to have the hardwired connection and all that. I love a lot of multiplayer games, Mario Kart, Smash, different things. Sometimes I play it co-op with other people. I don't get that much chance now that I'm older and I don't have that many friends around that want to play those kind of games. But if it's got against the computer, I will enjoy that. If you cut that out and just make it an online experience and it's all about buying skins and all that kind of stuff, I have no interest. That's why Ninjala, that game looked really interesting to me in the past. But then when I realized it was just really one of those, I thought, nah. I thought it was going to be the next Splatoon, but nope. Okay, after that, Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. This was super hype. This is one of those things that had I not seen the thumbnail, I would have gone bananas about. This is the first 3 games. They recently redid Banana Split or something like that, the Wii game. And everyone was like, why did they do that one? Why didn't they do the first 3? Well, that's because they were saving it for the 20-year anniversary. And yes, it's been 20 years. That's kind of crazy. But Super Monkey Ball, excellent game on the GameCube. Love that they're remastering the GameCube games. This is some excellent fun. And of course, they're adding the classic Sonic and Tails as unlockable characters. You know me, I'm definitely all about that. Next one, Mario Party Superstars Online. This is a collection of the best of the N64 Mario Party minigames and maps, all remastered in HD, all non-motion control, and fully online. And here's something I really love. You can pause an online game and then pick it back up. So that was kind of always their thing, is like, how are you going to get a group of random people online to agree to play Mario Party from beginning to end? People will just get up and walk away. One person has to leave and it ruins the whole experience. You have the ability to save your thing and come back to it. So you can have like your Tuesday night Mario Party, and you get to wherever you are and you pick it up next Tuesday night for a couple hours with your friends. That is going to be an excellent experience. Something they should have done before. Something Super Mario Party came out with their online DLC, and I thought they missed the boat. That if they were going to do that, they should have pushed that out at the beginning of the pandemic, but they waited till the pandemic was nearly over, and now everybody's trying to get out. They're not all about that, but it would have been like a huge thing at the beginning of the pandemic. And it's very obvious that that DLC was basically them taking some of the code from this new game, putting it in the old game as some last-minute DLC that they originally weren't going to do. Now, the big game, Metroid Dread. Now, for those that don't know, Metroid Dread is something that, since the GameCube era, has been a teased title. It was in development, and it got canceled. It never saw the light of day. But they brought the name back, which is really cool, really notable. Now, this is, what's also interesting is they call it, Metroid 5. Because in the 2D Metroid series, it's the 5th in the series. But they announced that Metroid 4 Prime, the 3D series, was being delayed even more. But then they revealed this. And this is kind of really what I wanted to see from the series. A nice 2D Metroid. There was no reason why we couldn't be getting these on the regular. Now, the one thing I will say that the Metroid Returns on the 3DS, my big complaint with that was, why didn't they also port that to the Switch? There was a handful of 3DS games towards the end of the 3DS life that I thought should have been simultaneously put onto the Switch with a little slightly better graphics. Because at that time it was like, I don't want to haul around both at the same time. I'm sure there'll be times when I'll get nostalgic and I'll pull my 3DS out, but you're launching all these games for it, and I bought your Switch, and I kind of just want to carry the Switch around right now. It looks like Metroid Dread is basically using that engine from that. So it looks, from what I would have expected Metroid Returns upgraded to have looked like. And when there's a lot of indie games that like outshine it as far as beauty, like that is kind of that puts a little damper. However, the concept of this game, the action, the platforming, everything about it looks stellar. It's Nintendo. It's gonna be top notch. I like how they put a little diss on Metroid Other M. Like, they're talking about how it's been like 19 years since we've had a proper 2D Metroid. Entry, meaning Metroid M, they don't consider that part of it, which was, in my opinion, the action, when the game had the action, was okay. It was all the cutscenes, all the story, and that was bad. Then we had a slew of other kind of games, and I'm not going to mention every game, but like some that were kind of a no. The new WarioWare game. I've never been a fan of the WarioWare games. But that was something that a lot of people were excited about. Shin Megami Tensei 5. I don't really care about the Shin Megami Tensei or the Persona thing, but because they're part of Sega, I have a little bit of care about that. This is the kind of more hardcore, older style Japanese RPG. In the Persona is like the sister series. This to me, though, looks like it's going to do really well, and that's good, because the more times that Sega has steady, good franchises, the more they're going to be willing to take risks on the little franchises. And Sega fans seem to be like, oh no, like if these new Atlas games do really well from Sega, they're going to ignore their old Genesis games. They're going to ignore their old Dreamcast games. No, if Sega doesn't have any good games making money, then they have no money to take a risk on making something for a niche nostalgia group, because a lot of those games aren't going to appeal to the mass market of today, because gaming tastes have changed. They will appeal to the people who had a Genesis back in the day, and when you think about that, was about 40 million people. Of that, only a fraction would have played those games, and only a fraction of those people are still playing games. So you got to imagine it's a small market, but if they've got money, if they're profitable, then doing some of these love letter games are more feasible. So I thought that was a good thing to see. Let's see. There was Advance Wars Reboot Camp. This is a series I didn't play on the Game Boy Advance. Always kind of looked at. It's my style of gameplay. I really like that kind of gameplay. So I'm definitely, it's remaster the first two. I'm going to take it out. Two Point Campus, another Sega game here that it interests me. I'm big into Sims, but I've never tried out the 2 Point ones. After the Sonic Central, I'm definitely going to be getting the 2 Point Hospital one. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. Tony Hawk 1 and 2 are some of the funnest games ever made. I played 2, I believe, on the Dreamcast, and I've played at other people's house, 1 on PlayStation. Now, the series kept trying to get a little more real. Those first 2 games, you could play for hours on end and not get tired. You could platinum the game and go back and still play, and it was fun. So seeing those remastered, definitely picking that up for my Switch. I know it's already out on other consoles, but I own a Switch. So having it finally come there. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. I am only lightly into the Dragon Ball universe. I have never sat down and watched the show from beginning to end. I have seen episodes, of course, Death Battle. Big fan of that. Really has gone into some of the the Dragon Ball lore. This looked very cinematic. This interests me. It looked fun. But I heard a lot of criticism that, wow, they're telling this story yet again. Okay, now here's one that was in the Ubisoft press conference, but really, I'm going to put it here. Mario+Rabbids Spark of Hope. I loved Mario+Rabbids. I loved the Donkey Kong DLC for Mario+Rabbids. This game is XCOM with silly Rabbids antics, and then just Mario gushing Slayer, and it looks like they're going to be taking the Mario Galaxy games as kind of a reference point for this. So we're in space. We got that trailer was awesome. Everything I needed to get hyped for it. Day one buy for me. So I'm really glad about this game. Once again, though, one that was spoiled for me. I knew it was coming. On the Ubisoft front, we got Just Dance 2022. And this is another one that was in the Ubisoft presentation. My wife likes the Just Dance games, so maybe I'll get this one. I haven't gotten one yet for the Switch, but she likes dancing games. And my daughter, she's really getting into dancing. She unfortunately got my moves, so not good. But maybe she'll get better. But she's only 5. But she'd probably actually get a really big kick out of Just Dance games. So maybe I'll get this one, or maybe I'll get the previous one that was already on the Switch. But what I thought was funny about this announcement was it's the first Just Dance game to not be on the Wii. Like, they'd already discontinued the Wii U, the PS3, all that, but they've been continuing to come out on the Wii. And so it's official. The Wii is officially dead. And then they showed Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy on the Switch. Now, this is going to be through one of those streaming services, so you're going to need high internet. And even if you have internet, you're going to have the plug-in thing because the Switch internet isn't there. But what's funny is, during the Ubisoft presentation, they were showing this on like a PS5, and it was having frame rate issues. So the concept of it being on Switch, like maybe because it's streaming, it could potentially, if you have the most excellent connection, be the superior version because you have the processing power of the whole internet. But like a game that was having trouble on PS5 being on Switch, it just seems kind of laughable. On that note, we'll talk a little bit more about that when I go to the Ubisoft section. Then we got to the Zelda section. And so they said one more thing. And what they meant is we have one more subject. We're going to talk about Zelda, not one more game. But they kind of did a fake out, and they did the Hyrule Wars Age of Calamity DLC. And this was really good. And I thought it was good because at the beginning, you know, when they have the Tekken character carrying Ganondorf, and he looks dead, and he throws him off. So it started out, everybody thought maybe that was a Zelda thing. So ending with Zelda was a good idea. But they do it, this third-party spin-off game, we're getting DLC, and everyone's like, that can't be the ending. And then they go and they show some Skyward Sword HD, and they go, okay, this is the Zelda section. But once again, Skyward Sword, not most people's favorite Zelda game. Then they bring out the Game & Watch thing. And I think everybody was expecting Zelda 3D All-Stars, which they've never done those with Zelda like they have Mario. But a lot of people wanted to see like just ports of like the N64 games and the GameCube games make its way to Switch. Maybe another Wind Waker HD ported from Wii U to see the Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, all put into a collection and put out. So they were expecting that. Nope, and they even say it's not going to happen. So it's not like it's going to get revealed later. That's not happening during this anniversary. A lot of people were disappointed by that. And then they go into the Breath of the Wild sequel trailer, and it showed an interesting concept, but in reality, it was no more than the trailer we got last year. Nothing really to get hype. And I know they meant that to be their big ending finisher, but they needed to show a little bit more. And then when they said, maybe everybody thought that was going to be like the secret, like, oh, it's dropping December this year, like big Nintendo Go, and it's coming out with a Wii Switch Pro. They go, we're hoping by holiday to make the target of holiday of next year, meaning it may not even come out in 2022. So this game is nowhere near the development that everybody was assuming, and everybody's thinking it's, there were all these rumors that the Switch Pro was going to get dropped, and I think that also killed some of the hype, as we were expecting that, and so when we didn't get that, even though we got a lot of awesome games, it felt lacking. However, I think Nintendo had the strongest presentation of the thing, with Microsoft a close second. But before we get to that, Capcom only had a presentation because Sony didn't. Every game Capcom showed off could have been shown off either in Nintendo or Sony's Direct. Now, Capcom's never been a big supporter of Microsoft. Any game that comes to Microsoft is also on Sony. So there were some games that won't be on Microsoft that they needed their own presentation to show off. I'm a huge Capcom fan. However, I'm a Capcom fan for Mega Man and Virtual Fighter and Okami and Viewful Joe and all their different kind of brawler stuff and the Marvel vs. Capcom, all that kind of stuff. But the two kind of biggest franchises they have right now don't interest me. I could care less about Monster Hunter, and I could care less about Resident Evil. And that's pretty much all they talked about, except for a little bit of Ace Attorney, which could have easily been in the Nintendo Direct. And those two things, the Monster Hunter and Resident Evil stuff, I feel would have ended up in Sony's presentation had they been there. This was not enough to make a presentation. So it was a big disappointment. Mega Man's, next year, Mega Man's having their big anniversary year. So I was really hoping that we'd get some Mega Man news. Ubisoft continues to have amazing games and give lackluster presentations. They do this every year. It's what you expect from them. And most of their things that were interesting to me, I covered in the Nintendo one. But they look like they have a full slate of full games, some not my style. I think they had a solid presentation. A solid lineup of games that they were presenting, and they have a good-looking year ahead of them. However, they need to hire a new marketing team to make their presentations, because they make awesome games boring to look at. Square Enix. This was awful for me. This was awful. The Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy game looks really nice. It also looks like it's struggling on a PS5. This is made for PC. But I don't like the Guardians of the Galaxies in the comics. I didn't care for them in the MCU. their movies were okay. The humor didn't always hit for me, but as characters, they're not heroes I care about. So a Marvel game having this much love, just focusing on them, I want to play as Iron Man. I want to play as Spider-Man. Those are the kind of things I want to see. Now, we just saw Square Enix do their last thing, Promise, and the Iron Man stuff really got me excited, especially with VR capability. And that came out, and everybody really hated it. And people kind of knew it was going to be bad from the beginning, but that game was really meant to be kind of like an open world, constantly DLC type stuff, evergreen thing. And that's kind of why, because a lot of those games are too ambitious for their own good. They release buggy with the hope of getting good eventually, and they got a lot of monetization things that really hinder the game. I want to just play a really good Iron Man game. I mean, I love the Batman, like Arkham series games. I like Spider-Man 2, the new Spider-Man Sony games. Those are all excellent. Why can't we have an Iron Man game like that? I mean, Iron Man is just such a cool character and has such cool abilities. I think it would be great. So that's all I'm thinking the entire time I'm watching this Guardians of the Galaxy is how much I wish it was Iron Man's game. Which is unfair, but that was the... And after that, then they talked about some Final Fantasy stuff. I'm not a big Final Fantasy guy, but everyone got excited about this Final Fantasy Origins thing, and it's coming to mobile phone, and it might have been coming to like some streaming service or something, but it wasn't coming to the Switch. It wasn't coming to the mainline consoles. It wasn't coming... It might have been that it wasn't coming to Steam. It was coming to the other service that everybody hates on PC. But they're supposed to be remasters of them that look better, and when you put them side by side with images of the classic games playing on classic hardware, they look worse. And they made such a big deal about it. It's no. And then the other one was Team Ninja doing a thing. You know, that team did Metroid Other M. Like when they get their hands on these other franchises and try to turn it into a Team Ninja game, if you're a fan of Team Ninja, then you might like the game. If you're not, you're probably going to hate the game. So that remake thing there of the first game, I don't know. Maybe fans of the game will like it. Maybe they won't. The Indie Showcase. The Indie Showcase was fun. A lot of little fun games, little interesting things, but nothing grabbed me like when Shovel Knight was released or Hollow Knight or something. There was no game in particular that I was like, I need to go put down on the Nintendo eShop that I'm excited about that. But there were a lot of fun little things. I continue to love the indie scene. Makes up a lot of my gaming. Because I'm a retro gamer, the indie scene tends to do a lot of retro-inspired games. Now, to close this out, the Microsoft Bethesda press conference. And emphasis on the Bethesda. They really played a lot of Bethesda games. I've never really gotten into Bethesda games, so this isn't the thing. But this is a big win for Microsoft in that they have lacked content. And I know... like the Escape Pod, they've been kind of complaining about that as Bethesda fans, that they're not going to support this even if they get a Microsoft because they don't like the exclusivity thing. I get that, and I don't know why a company like Microsoft can't just go out and hire and create a studio. I really hated when they bought Rare from Nintendo, and then pretty much they didn't do Rare games. Then they put them on Connect stuff and making their Me knockoffs images for the Xbox on Live, and then finally they did Sea of Thieves, and Sea of Thieves is great, an amazing game, but it's not what you think of when you think of a Rare game. It's not Banjo-Kazooie, that kind of stuff. So, which I thought was Microsoft's whole point of buying them was they needed an animal mascot company to compete. But they did this at the time when animal mascots were kind of on the downturn. But guess what? We've got the Crash Bandicoot, the Spyro reimagined. Mario killed it with Mario. The animal mascots are kind of back. they're kind of having like this 90s nostalgia resurgence. And so I think like they really need to get on using that IP. But everybody from the original Rare team has pretty much left. So they bought a studio name, some properties they aren't using. And so I look at Bethesda and I thought, you know, in 10 years, will anybody from Bethesda still be at Bethesda? Or will they all leave and it just be a name? But they're actually using the property. So I do appreciate that. And gives them something neat to do. But I'd much rather them, instead of going out and acquiring studios, create studios. Just hire people. Like, they have the money, the infrastructure to do that. The big thing, though, was Starfield was announced from Bethesda. This is a Bethesda game that has been being teased for a long time. This is finally a Bethesda game that got my interest piqued. I'm a big sci-fi fan. Really looked like... other things, they had the Pirates Life DLC for Sea of Thieves. This is Pirates of the Caribbean DLC with Jack Sparrow. You know, they've got Sea of Thieves kicking butt on that. They've got Ubisoft has got their Skull and Bones pirate game, and I thought, man, pirate games are all the thing. Why is Disney not licensing out Pirates of the Caribbean to get a game? Because it seems like it would make sense, seeing as pirate games are in right now. Well, they did. They did it with Microsoft, so it's going to be DLC built into that world. Looked interesting. Looked interesting that they were using Jack Sparrow because all the drama, Johnny Depp is being canceled. So it kind of seemed like they were going to try to just phase that character out of the movies, but they're still keeping that character around. So that was kind of interesting. Halo Infinite looked beautiful. I'm not a Halo fan. I'm not a... let me rephrase that. I am not a shooter fan. Halo has always fascinated me from a story perspective. I watched some of the cutscenes. I am really into Red versus Blue. Like, the world of Halo fascinates me. I want to get into the Halo books. I want to explore the Halo universe. I just have no interest in the games. I don't like shooters. I try to play Star Wars shooters occasionally. As a big truck goes by. Sorry for the back noise. You know, grade A editing here. I don't edit. But Halo Infinite looked very pretty. Looked like it was doing interesting things with the story. I look forward to when Red vs. Blue will use this engine to do some of their stuff. So it's something that excites me, but it's not a game I'm actually going to play. Slime Rancher 2. I didn't know about Slime Rancher, but this game looked really fun. It didn't look like a Microsoft game. This looked like it belonged on Nintendo. You know, after Little Planet came out, Nintendo was like, it looks like a game that belongs on our system. They were like kind of upset that they hadn't come up with this world, and that if they tried to, it would be an imitation. This is something that I feel like it just feels like it belongs on Nintendo's system. It looked a fun game, and as someone who is considering a Microsoft system because of the backwards compatibility, because I want a lot of those Sega games that were on the Xbox and Xbox 360, because Sony's not backwards compatible with those games, but Microsoft is. I've been considering picking up an Xbox Series X system for that, and a couple of the new third-party games are coming. However, Sony has like the exclusives like Ratchet and Clank that I would be interested in, but seeing this is like something, this is a point in Microsoft's direction for me. Another one was the Shredder snowboarding game. This looked awesome and amazing. I love snowboarding games. However, I was never a big fan of the SS Tricky series. They were always a little too wacky to me. They were Tony Hawk to the nth degree. And then they seemed like they started to, like Ubisoft was kind of doing the more realistic, and it seemed like everybody was obsessed, both in skateboarding and snowboarding games, of trying to capture the realistic experience. And that to me is not that fun. However, my favorite snowboarding franchise is the 1080 series by Nintendo, 1080 Avalanche for the GameCube. Love that game because to me, it's right in the middle. It's arcadey. It's not over the top, like wacky, just stupid ridiculous. but at the same time, it is not like punishing you in a realistic way, and it just kind of has like that in between feel, and this had that, and so I really want that. Next was some DLC called Shroom of Doom for Grounded. Never heard of the game. Kind of looked funny. Reminded me a lot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. People shrinking down and going through a mushroom world or whatever. But the big thing was adding the evil spiders to chase you. And the only reason why I'm even talking about this is because they had an arachnophobia slider. So depending on how afraid of spiders you are, you can actually turn it down so that the spider is like just like the mouth with like a red circle behind it if you're afraid of like the legs and stuff. I thought that was funny. That was a slider, an adjuster that they felt needed in the game. I don't know why, that just tickled me that it had that. Okay, my game of the Microsoft presentation, Age of the Empire 4. I love Age of Empire, especially Age of Empire 2. That was really good. Age of Empire 3 was not that great. But Age of Empire is my jam. And then Age of Empire Online came out, and then it fizzled out, and I was very disappointed by that. I wanted to see that have legs. So the fact that Age of Empire 4 is coming out, and it looks beautiful. It looks like they're going the time period of Age of Empires 2, but it is not just an HD Age of Empires 2. This is a full new game, and the troops on the castle wall. Now, I had another game that I loved, which was Lords of the Realm. This is a much older game, and that was much more turn-based, but then when you actually attacked an army versus army, it would go into a live-action thing, and that had like the soldiers on the walls. And I always dreamed, like, if I had a chance to direct a game, that's what I would make. That's the game I'd make. I'd combine these two play styles. Seeing troops actually going on the top of the walls, so that walls weren't just like mindless buildings that just get broken through, like they actually have function. It was amazing. I am going to have to buy a PC for this. I run on a Windows XP. I've got an old, outdated PC. I haven't needed one. I've gone to tablet and phone with Android. This actually is going to get me to go to this new a new PC. I'm also excited. A couple of months ago, we had the new Stargate RPG or RTS, I should say, game announced. That also falls in this vein. The Jurassic Park games. There's been a lot of RTSs. I'm a huge RTS fan. I haven't had a PC that can play them in a long time. This along with a Stargate game are going to make me have to get a PC. Microsoft Flight Simulator. My favorite game that Microsoft has come out with is Crimson Skies. I love that game. I love playing games. I love playing it by planes. Specifically, Microsoft Flight Simulator, I always heard people talk about this. I always thought of it as, because they would talk about flying 747s, and that I didn't realize it was like virtually every kind of plane. And this game looked beautiful. I cannot wait to play this game. This is good. And talking about beautiful games, Forza Horizon 5. Every one of these Forza Horizon games is beautiful. I think that they should have swapped Halo in this spot in the thing. Halo would have been the stronger thing to close on. Because for a lot of people, it's just a car racing game. It is a great showcase for the power. I like car racing games. I've never been a Gran Turismo fan, which I believe Forza is kind of the same thing. But like it had some off-roading stuff and that's like, I like Sega Rally and Sega. Daytona is okay, but I really like the Sega Rally stuff. So this interests me. This interests me. If I had an Xbox system, this is a game I would get. So what the Xbox presentation did is it gave me more games that is either going to give me to buy a PC or it's going to get me to buy an Xbox, because these are games that I want to play. I have things on there that I want to play, but these are things that add motivation. So Sony, like I didn't buy anything other than Nintendo through the last generation. PS4 had some strong stuff that made me went. But Microsoft had nothing, nothing. And I've always been the guy. I bought a PS3. I kind of wanted an Xbox. I wanted an Xbox 360, but I ultimately went with PS3 because there were more exclusives that I wanted. And then when it was PS4 versus that, I kind of wanted the PS4, but I was at a point in my life where I was really mad that my entire PS3, I built up a huge PS3 library, and my PS3 had kicked the bucket, and I was like, I'd rather go out and buy another PS3 than buy a PS4 because I don't want to buy all these other games. I want to be able to play the ones I have because they're not available. And Microsoft did the other way, but at the same time, it was like they weren't showing me anything new to grab me. Microsoft is finally showing me something new. I really love their controller. I love playing their system when I go to other people's houses, but none of their first-party stuff has really been made for me. I don't care for shooters. I like driving games, but they're not the main driving force for me. I don't like zombie games. I don't like apocalypse games. And that is most of what Microsoft has. So seeing games on it that actually interest me for a change, and a number of them in just this presentation, has me really going, is this the generation I finally buy my first Microsoft system? Could be. And because of that, I think it was a solid presentation. And because I think for Xbox fans, they had Halo, they had Forza, they had the existing things. They really showed the muscle of Bethesda. They didn't just, they're not raring it, they're actually making Bethesda games. And games are coming. I really think it was a strong show for them. However, I enjoyed Nintendo's more. It's silly. People try to go, who won at E3? I really think it's one of those two. And there were other presentations that weren't worth mentioning. But, you know, I really think that those were kind of the strongest. Ubisoft, of course, had a lot of strong announcements. Not that good of a presentation. Square Enix really depends on whether or not you like Guardians of the Galaxy as a game. Because if you don't, that had nothing for you. If you do, that was an excellent presentation. You know, and then, you know, there was Devolver and, you know, different ones. It didn't interest me, didn't have time, didn't watch. So that's kind of my thoughts overall on E3. Hope you enjoy. This has been probably my longest video yet. I will next week be talking about the Sonic 30th anniversary, the Symphony. I'll probably do gameplay, not recording, I don't have that ability, but discussion on the new Sonic Minecraft, and I will probably also talk about Sonic Revolution. So all the 30th anniversary for Sonic that happened this week, but I'm kind of a week behind on these things. So with that, what did you guys enjoy at E3? Let me know down in the comments, and have a good day.